What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Check the Kick. I'm the host, Devin. Sherdog.com is the website. And I took last week off. There was really not a ton of crazy stuff coming up this past weekend for me to talk about. And I did a full recap of UFC 311. You can go back and listen to that Sherdog YouTube's live section. Keith had me on as a guest replacing Ben, and I did a recap of the whole card. So if you want to hear that, go back, and I'm with Keith, and we talk about the whole thing top to bottom. Pretty cool card. This past weekend, excuse me, we had some interesting stuff go down. We had the GFL draft. I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. First section of the show, out with the old. I'm going to kind of just miscellaneous all of this past weekend's combat sports into one big segment. I know I usually break it down a little bit more, but I'm not going to break down the whole entire Usman Nurmagomedov and Paul Hughes fight. Number one, because I only watched the first half of it, and then I listened to the second half because I was kind of out and about doing stuff. Did watch the BKFC card. That was kind of cool, and I don't really ever watch BKFC. So let's get right into it. Friday night for 3 hours, the GFL had their draft right in the beginning. Like, Tyron Woodley was the number one draft. But the whole thing is like, I just if you're only on audio, I apologize, but I'm just kind of shaking my head because there's no way this goes. They may do one event, but there's no way they do more than three. Half the dudes on this roster are older than I am, and I won't tell everyone how old I am, but I'm between the age of 30 and 35. You could make that guess. And there's a lot of dudes that are 10 years older than me in the GFL. That's not good. The way that they put this together using these like terrible AI costumes with a chat GPT hip hop song that is 1000% some sort of like franchise infringement to the Wu-Tang Clan's Protect Your Neck song, because they drop like those words protect your neck over and over again in the song. It's 1000% a song that's like an AI generated made up rap. It's like if you typed in make up bad hip hop song about MMA with like a bunch of keywords. Like, it's so dumb. It's so bad. And then the beginning of the broadcast, I'm looping back to that. The beginning of the broadcast, they freaking basically show a picture of the teams, the way that the GFL is supposedly set up. If you don't know, just pause this so you can look into it, but I'll break it down really quick. There's different teams from 9 different countries or whatever. There's like a Dubai team with Javier Mendez as a coach. There's a New York team with Ray Longo as a coach. There's a LA team. There's a Miami team, but they released all the teams. So this was supposed to be like a live draft. Excuse me again, sorry. Not professional. This is supposed to be a live draft where like you don't know, kind of like, you know, you've seen a draft before. You remember playing kickball as a kid where you're like, hey, you know, team 1 chooses John. Okay, you know, and they kind of have it structured in that way. But apparently all of it was already pre-planned, so it wasn't a true draft. And there was like over like 400 people or like 300 people that was supposedly eligible for draft. Like Rashad Evans was one of the dudes, and he's supposedly like boxing Rampage Jackson. They were posting pictures of oh my gosh, but whatever, they were posting pictures of like fighters using the wrong names for the wrong pictures. I'm sorry, I'm spacing on the name of who they did. I even screenshot it and sent it to the Sherdog Slack. They're using someone else's picture for like Danny Brown, who's like not, just the whole thing is so janky. Bunch of people were like, one of the dudes that was up for draft was fighting on the PFL card this weekend, and I mean, he kind of got beat up pretty badly, but he was fighting this weekend. Like, a bunch of wonky shit, a bunch of old heads, all the famous and popular people. Chris Weidman retired like 14 days ago and is now on the GFL roster. He's come out and saying he's now fighting again. I don't know if he just kind of bamboozled the UFC, like, hey, I'm retiring. They cut him, and then he goes and re-signs again. Shogun is fighting. Like, it's bad. It's real bad. I could have done better and come with the teams and named off every person, but like JDS was like the first pick for Miami. There's a bunch of fighters out there on the regional scene that aren't signed to big organizations that are way better than these old heads. And they're just picking people that are old with a name. There's no, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like they could have definitely dug up some better talent, but they just went with the people that are names, and it is what it is. They're not going to do more than 3 events. Go back and watch it if you want to spend 3 hours, but like the AI imaging was like them wearing bad Scorpion costumes, like Mortal Kombat Scorpion without the mask. Shogun was like riding a horse in this like weird AI imagery there. It was so bad. Don't watch it, but it was funny. Robin Black was going off on these tangents about how Gegard Mousasi, who was also drafted as the best fighter over 185 pounds, including light heavyweight and heavy, like, and if you don't believe that, you're casual. Brennan Shaw was on there, but and they were like randomly FaceTiming fighters in their house, like, you were picked for the Team Miami, and then they do like one of these with them. It's just bad. We're gonna move on to PFL real quick. Probably the best PFL fight that they've ever had. Usman Nurmagomedov took on Ireland's Paul Hughes, hailing from Belfast. Belfast seems really cool. I'm not like a huge. I live in a very beautiful part of the country. I'm surrounded by mountains, and I can drive 3 hours and be in some really good. And everywhere around me is really awesome. I'm really close to Canada, to BC. Tons of cool shit where I live. I got no interest to really travel too far away. But Belfast does seem really cool, and that's a place I'd like to go to. It's neither here nor there. Paul Hughes showed up. Usman Nurmagomedov kind of seemed to be taking him for granted a little bit. And they both fought their asses off, got some penalties towards the beginning of the fight where they both were fouling each other, and it wasn't purposeful, but Usman started to pull away in the beginning and was doing well with the kicks, and then he kind of hurt his leg, and Paul Hughes has got a really good pressuring game with great footwork, and he's super tenacious. He had a beautiful switch. His knees, throwing knees to the body, his body punching, his combination punching. Usman's lead leg kicks were great. His boxing was good. His takedowns were there. He definitely even admitted to taking him for granted. He's 26, and that's what's going to happen to 26-year-olds. They're going to go and win those fights. Look at John Jones and Alexander Gustafsson when he took him not seriously and had to pull out of the fire in the 5th round. Kind of similar to how Usman did. A lot of people were online saying that they thought Paul Hughes won. Again, I only watched the first half of the fight, and then I kind of listened to the audio, and I was peeking at my phone as much as I could, but I was out running errands. From the 75% of what I saw, I kind of went away with it being a very close fight and Usman winning, even though he did get the point deduction. But there's just this, you guys know, there's this like random hatred stigma for the Nurmagomedov team, and there's a whole bunch of people online that were just like, he lost, or whatever. They're unable to watch it unbiasedly. I try to be a little more unbiased. I love Paul Hughes too. I think he's fucking awesome. Shame on the UFC for not offering this kid what he was looking to get, because he's young. He's only 28 himself, and he's got 2 losses on his record now. And the first loss is just like a meh, kind of a whatever. But this fight, like, this isn't even a loss for me. He's saying he wants a rematch, and Usman's like, no, you got to go win 2 or 3 more fights. Usman, you better not have been talking shit about Merab when your brother fought Merab and how Merab didn't want to fight him because, bro, you got to fight this dude again. And you're not going to be able to do it on favorable soil. Next time Usman Nurmagomedov fights Paul Hughes, it's going to either happen in Ireland, which real likely, or at least on neutral soil somewhere in the United States. It definitely won't be favorable. It'll either be unfavorable or in a neutral soil next time they fight. So, yeah, Paul Hughes, Dan Hardy asked Paul Hughes after the fight, hey, man, you fought so well against this undefeated guy, and this could have gone either way. How do you feel? You should be proud of your performance. And Paul Hughes was like, nah, man, I thought I could have beat this dude. I could have gone harder. Both of them are really humble. In the post-fight, they, Khabib has invited Paul Hughes to come and train with them, blah, 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 super cool. Paul Hughes is like, yeah, I would love to come visit you guys, but I'm going to rematch this guy first. There's no way that he's there. First off, there's not 2 or 3 fucking fights for Paul Hughes out there. And you don't risk that now. This is great for the PFL for the first quarter of the year. Now they've kind of got this now they have the golden ticket. They can say, hey, we've got a rivalry. I don't think they should sell it as Dagestan versus Ireland, though. There was like a big brawl, and then at the end, like people don't understand that people are selling fights, man. They don't get it. Like, they'll take it personal and they'll go fisticuffs. And clearly, like, there's a ton of respect between those 2 young guys. So let's not make it like one against the other anymore. Let's just call it Usman versus Hughes, Nurmagomedov versus Hughes 2. I don't think there needs to be any other. You don't need to pit countries against each other. I found that selling point really weird from the PFL, by the way. Like, the whole world is is a very tumultuous place right now. Whether everyone's going to have their own beliefs on politics, I won't get into that on this show. But I think we could all agree there's a lot of turmoil, and just making it a rivalry between countries. Yeah, I just felt like it was kind of unnecessary, especially when they created a huge ass brawl. Like, people probably got hurt and shit. Cool fight. Great fight. Both guys fought their asses off. And just to cap off the weekend, BKFC, Eddie Alvarez got stopped by Jeremy Stephens in the 3rd round corner stoppage about 2 hours ago. I'm recording this on Monday in the early afternoon on my lunch break. Wow. It's called preparation, guys. Yeah, Jeremy Stephens broke Eddie Alvarez's jaw about 2 hours ago. He released a X-ray MRI of his dome piece, and I think it was his left side, but it's like broken. Like, pause this, go to Eddie Alvarez's Instagram. His jaw is like broken. So he's the hardest hitting 145er. Jeremy Stephens and Conor McGregor did a face-off, and he's telling David Feldman, release the date. Conor's never going to show up for an MMA fight. But if he was a free agent, he would probably be willing to fight Jeremy. Conor McGregor would take a short notice BKFC fight, out of the crowd there at this stage of the game and where he's at mentally. I totally believe he would have fought Jeremy Stephens right there. They don't drug test. He'd fail one. But he seemed to be he's entering his Tina Turner stage right now, Conor McGregor, where he is just skiing the Swiss Alps. If you know what I mean. He's just all entertainment. And fellow Sherdog associate Ben Duffy said, hey, this guy's making fun of him, but he's like, we should cherish this guy right now because he's one of one. And you know what? He's not wrong. Ben's right. We need to cherish Conor McGregor while we've got him. Dude, as long as he's not out there committing crimes and hurting people, I don't care if he does these wackadoodle ass speeches. Go listen to Conor McGregor's BKFC speech during the pre-fight show, whatever. He also was like 3 hours late to their pre-fight stuff, which is real, of course. Ben Rothwell killed the man with one punch. He's like 4'6'5", 280, fighting BKFC and killing dudes. He is the current BKFC heavyweight champ. Again, I'm not very well versed in BKFC. Like, this is usually I'm not for it, but I like watched it this week and I was like, this isn't too bad. But yeah, Ben Rothwell, ex-UFC, ex-everywhere, is world champion again, and he looks to be a big problem at bare knuckle. Like, he is punching dudes once, and they are falling and not waking back up. Taylor Starling and Beck Rawlings had a really good fight where they both kind of went to war. Beck Rawlings was the cleaner, sharper puncher, kind of making Taylor Starling run into big overhands, sticking her behind the jab, using her footwork, her pressuring footwork. It was a pretty dope performance. So many finishes, like the whole whole thing is just like finish after finish. A lot of big upsets. I might watch some more BKFC. I might be turning a corner, and it's like $4 a month. Maybe there's more BKFC on this show in the future. Tell me what you guys want to hear. Moving on to the final segment of the show, in with the new. I kind of covered a lot, so I'm skipping the middle segment. We've got a pretty interesting card happening this weekend. It's starting really early in the morning, which I don't love that because I'm on West Coast time. And let me tell you, the preliminary card starts at 6 a.m. my time, so I won't be up for that one. But I'm going to try to wake up and catch the main card. Maybe I'll miss the first fight. I'll go back and watch everything, and we'll talk about it next week. But I'm definitely going to be at least awake for sure, like drinking my coffee for the Nurmagomedov Vinicius Oliveira fight, or Ikram Alaskirov versus Andre Muniz is off the card, I hear. So I think they're going to be looking for a replacement for Ikram. Kind of sucks. The UFC will be in Saudi Arabia. Card is headlined by the returning Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov. We're going to talk about 3 fights. First fight I'm going to talk about is Sergei Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Odds on this fight: Sergei Pavlovich is a pretty hefty favorite. Minus 320 is the biggest line you can find for him. Looks to be about minus 300 everywhere else. Jairzinho is about plus 240. Pretty interesting fight. We got Sergei Pavlovich. He is riding a 2-fight loss streak. Sorry. He is the Russian. Last time out, he lost a pretty clean decision to Alexander Volkov, where he kind of was really upset and overwhelmed and flustered in that fight. One of my favorite MMA moments, by the way, is Volkov like getting his hair combed and smiling at Pavlovich in the corner, and then Pavlovich getting so mad he's like pushing Volkov after the fight, like just like threw a tantrum. Fight before that, he fought for the interim title where he got knocked out in the first round by Tom Aspinall, and that was an incredible performance. He lost his UFC debut to Alistair Overeem and then went on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fight win streak, all knockouts in the first round. So coming into that Aspinall fight, he was fucking murdering people. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, the Surinamese fighter, I think he's from Suriname. He's riding a 2-fight win streak. March 2024, he had that wonderful fight with Shamil Gaziev. No, it was a terrible fight where, like, dude, Jairzinho, like, you could have finished this dude in the second round. Like, you just, like, let him linger way too long. Gaziev threw, like, 20 strikes in that fight. It was terrible. Terrible. But last time out in August, he won a splitty over Tai Tuivasa. Before that, he did get subbed out by Jailton Almeida. He knocked out Chris Daukaus got knocked out pretty bad by Volkov. One of Volkov's better performances, that was back in 2022 when Volkov's starting to streaking the way he is now. And he's kind of, won one, lost one for a while. He went on a great run when he entered the UFC. He won 1, 2, 3, 4 fights in a row. He had that incredible knockout of Alistair Overeem. That was 5 years ago. Just over 4, but still, that was in 2019 where he, landed that big jumping hook buzzer beater and like busted over Overeem's face. Just busted his whole lip. It just like split it wide open. It was gross. This is a real interesting fight. Getting knocked out by Tom Aspinall doesn't mean you're bad, but the way he looked against Volkov was really bad. I also kind of chop that up to like number one, Volkov being like a real good technician that's actually just getting better, becoming a good puncher, but has like really good footwork, knows how to be a tall man. And those two dudes had sparred a lot. And it did seem like that's kind of how a lot of their sparring probably went to, where Pavlovich just would really struggle to find him. It really reminded me of the Jack Hermanson Chris Curtis fight, where like Jack Hermanson was just using better footwork and just had like a better game set up to really like not only flummox but fluster Chris Curtis. And that's kind of how this was. Like, he just had Pavlovich like bombing overhands, and that's because that's all he could do. It's a good punch. Pavlovich, when he's doing things right and when he's on a 6-fight winning streak, he's on the front foot, trusting his chin, and willing to get into the pocket and just swinging hammers. He's got huge power and huge hands, and meeting people in the pocket and winning a short exchange or a short brawl. He did clip Tom Aspinall, but Tom Aspinall had the chin and was able to take it and was able to hit him back with something crisper and cleaner. I don't know if Jairzinho Rozenstruik has the hand speed. He's got pretty good hand speed for heavyweight, but I don't think he has the hand speed or even the willingness to like meet Pavlovich in the pocket and like brawl with him the same way. Not really brawl, but meet him in the pocket with an exchange that Tom Aspinall did. I don't think it'd be smart for Jairzinho too. Jairzinho can potentially fight. He's got good leg kicks and he's willing to do it. His problem is he'll plant his feet and throw leg kicks and then allow his opponents to throw volume at them. He doesn't have great striking defense. He does get touched a lot. He's got big power himself, but I definitely don't think he's as powerful as Pavlovich, but he's definitely powerful enough to knock Pavlovich out. But he's, Pavlovich has that scary, almost Francis Ngannou power where like doesn't even have to be clean and it doesn't even have to be full power. Jairzinho Rozenstruik can be really frustrating because he's got a lot of deadly weapons, but sometimes he's like real lackadaisical in fights. He's got terrible takedown defense, and Pavlovich might be able to go to that here, but I don't think that would suit him best. Jairzinho's problem is he's also willing to take the back foot, and he will try to like circle out, but he's not a great counter puncher. I think we see Sergei Pavlovich return to form because it's men's heavyweight and like he could literally just do what Francis Ngannou did. Like if he just goes on the front foot and meets Jairzinho Rozenstruik in the pocket and just decides to throw more volume, which Pavlovich is not scared to do that. He throws these like weird lead hand shoveling uppercuts. He throws like a weird shovel jab at times. He's got good power. If he just like marches forward and throws clean combinations, like Rozenstruik, when Francis Ngannou did that, he planted and tried to fire back with a leg kick and just got caught. So give me Pavlovich to just go out there and throw a storm of volume until something touches Rozenstruik and Rozenstruik goes down. I think Pavlovich knocks him out in the first round. Moving on to the co-main event. We've got Sharabutdin taking on Michael Venom Page. This is a fight up at middleweight. Michael Venom Page, his first time there at middleweight under this banner. Let me give you guys the odds. Sorry, the place I go gives me a bunch. Sharabutdin, he looks like he's about minus 190, minus 200. So he's the favorite. MVP's coming back. Plus 160, plus 155 is what I'm seeing. You can get a better or worse number on both of those dudes. This is a real interesting fight because Sharabullet is it's a weird fight for MVP, and I'm happy MVP's taking a fight like this under the UFC banner. I think his idea was like, okay, title run, and if that doesn't work, then do fun fights. And I really love that he just shifted right over. He's not fucking around anymore because he's older. MVP, he's 37 years old. He's going to be 38 in like a month and 2 months. He's going to be 38 years old. And he can be a star, and he kind of already is a star, and he's incredible to watch. And both of these guys really are. Sharabullet, I don't want to say he's not good enough to fight for a title at middleweight because he fights at middleweight, but the dude can't get sanctioned to fight. He can't get visas. So like he's gonna only be able to fight in the Middle East. Good thing for him in this era of the UFC, they've got a great relationship with those guys over there. So he should be able to fight over there. But I don't know what his prospects are if he himself has title implications and wants to fight for a title. MVP is not a fight that puts him on a trajectory towards a middleweight title fight, but it kind of can increase his star power, and it's a big name and it's a fun fucking fight. I mean, it's kind of crazy. He was calling out Izzy a couple fights ago, and everybody was calling him crazy. Well, now he's on the co-main event under Izzy. Izzy drops another loss, and Shara wins big here. I don't know. Let's get into the fight. Such a weird fight. Like, I want to talk about MVP first. He's a dude that I kind of hated on for a little bit, but I've really come around and I really like him now. He's got such a violent game. His game is incredibly violent, and he himself is incredibly violent. Like he is one dude that's like, when he wins over people, like he's actually hurting people. It's not like, okay, you got knocked out. Like his Goto Yamaguchi fight, like he broke his knee with leg kicks. Like go back and look at the images, like his leg is shattered. His Cyborg Santos fight, like he literally left a crater in homie's head. Like what Cyborg Santos head looks like today? You ever go to like an ice cream shop and they get the ice cream scooper and they scoop one scoop out and it's like fresh? That's what his head looks like. Someone just took a scooper and scooped the chunk out of homie's head. He can hit these incredible flying knees. He's a one-shot guy, and that's one thing I don't like about his game, but it's one shot at 120%, and it's intended to kill you. He is a type of guy that's like, he's not a guy that's going to throw a ton of volume at you, but he's a guy that is going to just throw one dart with poison on it, and it's a kill shot. It's going to hit you right where it needs to hit you, and you're gonna drop like a ton of bricks. He's a dude like Kevin Holland with tons of power. He was catching Kevin Holland on the offbeat. He would feint at Kevin, cause Kevin Holland to react, and then just crush him with a big jumping strike. MVP's ability to be from kicking range to punching range and then cutting an angle and back out is actually quite incredible. He's even at 37 years old, he's a super fucking athlete. Sharabullet, he's a dude that will throw a ton of volume and is super creative and has a ton of dexterous kicks. He himself has got good jump knees. His last time out, he landed that incredible double back fist over Armen Petrosian, was in the runnings of knockout of the year at Sherdog.com in 2024. An incredible fucking knockout. And I was not high on this guy. I was like, he's a flimsy, unathletic, skinny dude. He's going to get bullied at middleweight. And now I'm thinking like, who knows? He maybe weasel his way into the title picture. He beat Bruno Silva, and I was like, Bruno Silva doesn't want to be a fighter anymore. Then Antonio Tricoli, whose only win is Mackenzie Dern. he knocked him out, but like he himself didn't look good there. And then he beat Mikhailo Lajechuk, who is a pretty good opponent. He beat him by unanimous decision. But it does look like he's turned a good, a pretty good leaf. Like he does seem to have good power. He's got good crisp striking, and he's willing to just be high volume and throw weird and wonky stuff. If he tries to throw some weird spinning back fist and gets hit with a jumping switch knee that lands like behind his ear by MVP and just dies, I wouldn't be surprised, especially because he's freaking blind in one eye. That's part of the reason why he can't get sanctioned to fight anymore. But I'm going to root for MVP in this fight. I want that to be clear because I like MVP and I think it would be funny if he beats Sharabullet. He's going to beat him two ways. He's either going to knock him dead or he's going to do him like he did Kevin Holland and taunt him in the cage. Like he hit Kevin Holland with this big, beautiful shot, kind of like behind the ear on the jawline, and just like kind of wobbled him a little bit. And he's like making fun of him wobbling and cutting angles and boom, hitting with these raise. He's just a really dynamic striker. He's got such cool switch kicks. He's got such big power for a long, lanky dude. And I don't think the middleweight thing will be a problem for him, especially with a one-off fun fight where, that if this was Anthony Hernandez, like Fluffy Hernandez, I'd be like, ooh, that's a bad idea. But like, could MVP get out wrestled by Brendan Allen for 2 rounds and then crush him with the jumping switch knee? Yeah, also that too. I'm gonna pick Sharabullet in this fight though. I want MVP to win, like I said. Clearly, I'm talking him up. But I think Sharabullet's just gonna go and get on the front foot, hit him with a ton of volume, throw leg kicks at him. He himself is fast, and it's funny because I'm gonna say he has good vision, but like he may not have both of his eyes, but he's got good vision. Like when he's in the cage fighting, like his awareness for strikes that's coming back. He doesn't get hit a ton, and it's just the volume. MVP is such a one and done striker. Where like I've never seen MVP throw more than 2 things. Sharabullet's just such a dynamic dude with a bunch of different tools that he's willing to use. Willingness and volume can take you a real long way in MMA, especially at men's middleweight. Again, MVP is not this big imposing wrestler or something like that. And he can hit tricky little sweeps to drop his opponents down, but he's not going to be following them to the ground. He kind of does that more of a mental thing. But I got to pick Sharabullet in this fight. I just think he's going to, I think it's just a volume thing. I think the strikes are going to be 3-1. See if he can find MVP though. Moving on to the main event. We have Israel Adesanya taking on Nassourdine Imavov. Let me give you the odds to that fight. I've got too many tabs open, sorry. Israel Adesanya is the favorite, -165. Nassourdine Imavov is a +140 dog. So pretty tight odds on the returning former champion Adesanya. Adesanya is coming off of a 2-fight loss streak. He has lost 3 of his last 5 fights. His 2 wins in those last 5 fights, one of them was Jared Cannonier, the other one was Alex Pereira, where he came back after kind of getting beat up pretty bad. And I don't want to say pull the rabbit out of a hat, but thank God he was able to land a great counterpunch on Alex Pereira in that fight because it wasn't going his way. After that, he was a big favorite and lost to Strickland. That was back in September of 2023 in Australia, where Strickland nearly finished him in the first round and just was a better fighter than Israel Adesanya. Like he did Izzy's fight, did a whole entire striking match on the feet with Izzy, and just, it's weird that I'm saying this, completely outperformed him. And then he returned and had another title fight off of a loss against Dricus du Plessis, where he lost via 4th round submission, rear naked choke, in a pretty close fight where I would have maybe, all 3 rounds were close. I would have said maybe 2 rounds to 1 round for Izzy, but in that 4th round, Duplessis was clearly coming back and would have won that round either way. And then whatever. You guys know how it works. Pretty close fight though, but Izzy did get buzzed on the feet and did get taken down and did get choked out in that fight. Dricus is the world champion. Dricus defeated Strickland after Strickland defeated Izzy. It's kind of crazy that Strickland and DDP are like the best two middleweights on the roster right now, and they're so evenly matched. Like, I actually thought Strickland won their first fight. We're gonna be talking about that soon. But yeah, it's just weird that these are the two best dudes in the division right now. On paper, Hamzat could be the best, but right now on paper, it's those two dudes. Imavov is coming off of he's coming off of a 3-fight win streak where he defeated Roman Dolidze via a majority decision. He knocked out Jared Cannonier in the 4th round, and that was back in June of 2024, and kind of a weird fight that was pretty close, but he did hurt him and finish him in that 4th round. And then he defeated Brennan Allen later on that year. That was at the end of 2024 in September, where he defeated Brennan Allen. He had that no contest against Chris Curtis due to the head clash, but he was kind of getting the better of Chris Curtis there. Before that, he did lose to Sean Strickland in 2023, but Sean Strickland was the world champion, and he's fighting for the title again. And he looked fine, even though Sean Strickland did take that on short notice off the couch and up a division. They did actually take that fight at 205. Short notice fights are weird, man. He's got pretty good wins in the UFC, like outside of those guys. Like he, beat Ian Heinisch, finished Edmund Shabazi, and beat Joaquin Buckley. His second fight in the UFC, he lost to Phil Hawes, but like he's definitely gotten better. Still not a good look, in my opinion. Man, it's just, for me, in this fight, both of these dudes are big. Clearly, Adesanya is getting older, and he's at the back stage of his career. And Imavov is kind of, moving up and doing bigger things. He's headlining cards. He's now fighting a former champion. I think Nassourdine Imavov could be even better if he wasn't at MMA Factory fighting out of France. I really hate to say that. Like, if this dude was at Extreme Couture, like at Sean Strickland's camp or at like American Top Team or something like that, he's got a lot of good tools. He's a good finisher. He's a good straight puncher. The way he finished and hurt Jared Cannonier, he's not scared to meet people in the pocket. He's got good wrestling, pretty good cardio. His cardio's definitely gotten better too. And he's also a big dude that knows how to use his size, and he can tie people up in the clinch. He's got good dirty boxing, good knees. He's athletic, he's fast, and he can do a lot of things sharp and straight. Adesanya, up through when he was, making waves coming up to the title, and when he captured the UFC title, he was kind of a guy that was almost feared. Like, he knocked out Rob Wilkinson and then had a close fight with Marvin Vettori and then beat Brad Tavares. His knockout against Derek Brunson was like kind of something that put him on the map. Had a pretty close fight, but clearly beat Anderson Silva. This was back in 2019. Anderson was old at that point. Had the war with Kelvin Gastelum where he won the belt, knocked out Robert Whittaker, and then at that point he kind of had this aura about him where people were like, damn, this dude is killing people. After that, he knocked out Paulo Costa, and then people were like, sheesh, so then there wasn't really many people in the division. Middleweight's gotten a lot better. The contenders are a lot better. Like the Nassourdine Imavov that he's about to fight this weekend, probably better than a lot of the dudes that he was fighting, Like, I love Yoel Romero, but he would have probably beat Yoel Romero at that point. And even Robert Whittaker in 2019, today's Nassourdine Imavov could probably do pretty good against him. After that Paulo Costa fight, he went up to 205 and kind of got exposed a little bit by Jan Blachowicz, by a guy that could match his kicking game and just not die from the feints. And then not only strike with him and outstrike him in the kickboxing, but then, really able to get him down and be big and take full mount and kind of almost finish him in the 5th round. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he was like in full mount, raining down punches on Izzy as the timer ended in the 5th. That was kind of Izzy's one shot up at 205. After that, he came back down and defeat Marvin Vettori, defeat Robert Whittaker in a really close fight, defeated Jared Cannonier in another pretty close fight. And then he got knocked out by Alex and then came back and beat Alex and then lost to Strickland and Duplessis. That's been his UFC career. I think a big problem that Izzy's going to face moving forward if he does decide to stay at 185 is the fact that like his game is just slowing down a little bit. Like he himself is just slowing down. Like he's still got the fight IQ. Like he was punching the body really well against Duplessis, but he's always been a guy that I don't want to say he was overhyped, but I think some of his skills were over embellished or maybe even over focused on by his opponents, where Jan Blachowicz just showed everyone, and so did Kelvin Gastelum, like you can meet this guy in the pocket and hit him with shots that he doesn't like. If you force Adesanya on the back foot, he kind of falls apart. He doesn't have a good back foot counterpunching game. He's a willing puncher in the pocket, at least he used to be. But even in the pocket, he does have good vision, but he throws a lot of big looping punches, and he likes to lean back and be a tall guy with his defense. And someone like Nassourdine Imavov could really, really go out there and just punch the body, punch a hole through his fucking chest, like Ray Longo always said. Throw clean shots, force him on the back foot, mix in the wrestling, and give someone like Izzy a lot of problems. Izzy's got a really good feinting game and a really good kicking game, and he throws really good leg kicks, and this could give Nassourdine a lot of problems because he's really good with his question mark kicks. He's got really good punching, really good body punching. If Izzy is left to his own devices and you just let him fight his game, he's going to pick at you from the outside, and then force you into the pocket and try to touch you with something. But if you start disrupting that, you throw teep kicks at him, you mix in the grappling, and you just make it more chaotic, whether it be like a weird Dricus Duplessis way, or you do it with good defense, a high guard, and forward pressure and good straight shots down the pike, like Sean Strickland, there are ways he can be defeated. Gonna pick Nassourdine Imavov, but it's a flyer because I also am not like 1,000% convinced. I think Caio Borralho with this opportunity, because I feel like he's got a lot of similar skills to Imavov. I think Caio Borralho would probably have a better chance just because I know he's got really high fight IQ and he's super willing. He'd be super willing to stick to the right game plan to beat Izzy. But like if Nassourdine Imavov wants to win this fight, he's got to stick to a good game plan. And that's where where I'm iffy, because I'm not convinced MMA Factory is a great gym that lets guys get into fights with great game plans. And I'm making that statement not biasly. I'm making that statement based on footage, based on what I hear in the corners, based on how those dudes carry themselves. I don't want to bash them, but I just don't think they're great. I think their head coach likes to have the spotlight, and cares about being popular and stuff. But give me Nassourdine Imavov to kind of formulate a game plan where he took the best of Jan Blachowicz' check the kick, and I can't even say kick checking game, mixed with the straight punching and forward pressure, along with straight teep kicks of Sean Strickland, and then some of the wrestling and submission threats that Dricus Duplessis presented. I think Nassourdine Imavov is actually a well-rounded enough fighter, and he has enough skills to kind of blend those together, especially if he just doesn't bite on the feints, checks the kicks, and really starts his own feinting game and really gets a jab and a cross put on Izzy and really forces him on the back foot and then makes him wrestle against the cage. there's ways to beat Israel Adesanya in 2025 again. And I do think it's one of those things where these guys that are coming up the division, man, like there's dudes out there that are good. Like Israel Adesanya didn't have to fight a number 14 or 13 ranked Fluffy Hernandez. He didn't have to fight Hobo Cop. These are dudes that are like now looking to be ranked. Like the division middleweight's gotten better. It's funny and crazy and weird still, but it's gotten better. And there's dudes like Caio Bahayo and Nassourdine Imavov that are Hamzat Chimaev that are lurking, and they're freaking they're thirsty, man. Give me Nassourdine Imavov. It's a 5-round fight. Now, this could look like the Israel Adesanya Yoel Romero fight. We know he's willing to fight like that to win a fight. I think it's going to be a good one, though. Give me Nassourdine Imavov. That's the show, guys. And I do think he wins by decision. That's the show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the fights.